Hey everybody, and welcome back to another Mr. Bever's Magic the Gathering video. Again, this is a not a cracking packs video because we're not cracking packs, but we are going to open up this Goblin deck. We talked about this. We opened up the Merfolk last week. We're going to open up the Goblin one this week. Take a look at it. Once I've opened these up and taken a look at them here on stream, we will I will tweak them off stream, and then I'll probably film a video of me and a buddy of mine playing, and then I'll put that up on as well so you guys can see what we changed to the decks and how they handle against each other. Because, I mean, as was mentioned in some of the comments of the last video, the decks were basically built to play against each other, which is great. You know, that's the whole point of it, is to get people into Magic, that kind of stuff. That's great. But I think we could tweak them a little, make them a little more interesting, maybe a little harder to deal with for each other. And I think that will make it more fun. It'll be like, oh, you got that. Oh no, things are ruined. Anyway, so your foil mythic card that comes, which already is curving like nobody's business, is your Warren Instigator, which is a 1/1 for 2 red, double strike. And when it deals damage to an opponent, you may put a goblin creature from your hand onto the battlefield. So, very mean, especially in a goblin deck, in the right goblin deck. Now let's open this bad boy up. Alright. We got a Goblin Diplomats, which is a 2/1 for 2. Each creature attacks this turn if able. So you can make your opponent's attack into you and then swing them back, essentially. So like if you have the Instigator on the table, you could be like, you attack me with your 2/3 and your 3/4. I'll take the 5, and then next turn I'll swing you back and hit you and put some goblins into play. Goblin Rabble Master. This guy's really cool. It's if other goblin creatures you control attack each turn if able. At the beginning of your combat, you create a 1/1 red goblin token with haste. Rabble Master gets +1/+0 until end of turn for each other attacking goblin. So he is very good. I think he was from Origins. Am I correct? No, maybe not Origins. Maybe it was M14 or M15, one of those. Goblin Chieftain. This is a staple, was back from a long time ago. Scourge, I think. Was it Scourge or Onslaught? Was one of those ones from way back. 2/2 for 3, 2 red and a generic. Haste, other goblin creatures you control get +1/+1 and have haste. So he's like one of the lords, basically. Goblin Goon. A 6/6 for 4. Goblin Goon can't attack unless you control more creatures than defending player. Goblin Goon can't block unless you control more creatures than attacking player. I've never seen that guy, so he must be new to this set. Goblin Raise Runners. A 6/6 for 4 is pretty disastrous, especially if you put like a Krenko in the deck. Goblin Raise Runners. Okay, so a 3/4 for 4. Pay 2, sacrifice a land, put a 1/1 counter on Goblin Raise Runners. At the beginning of your end step, you may have Goblin Raise Runners deal damage equal to the number of 1/1 counters on it to target player. Whoa. That's aggressive. Speaking of Krenko, there he is. So he is in this deck. So Krenko can make the Goon get out of hand because he creates X 1/1 red goblin creature tokens, where X is the number of goblins you control. So if you have lots of goblins on the table, Krenko gets pretty mean. Now, Krenko plus Goblin Chieftain is pretty sweet because you play the Goblin Chieftain, which gives them +1/+1 in haste. And so then when you play Krenko on turn 4, after playing the Goblin Chieftain, you can tap him right away to make tokens. And then the tokens have haste. Relentless Assault. Untap all creatures that attack this turn. After this main phase, there is an additional combat phase. So there you go. Followed by an additional... Wow, you get an additional main phase as well? Jeez. Alright. Brittle Effigy. 1 mana, pay 4, tap it, exile Brittle Effigy, exile target creature. So it's just a removal spell in a can, I guess. Goblin Charbelcher. 4 mana artifact. Everyone, I think, is pretty familiar with this one. I think it was it reprinted? It was in Eternal Masters, I think, or one of those sets that I got reprinted. Reveal cards from the top of your library until you reveal a land card. Goblin Charbelcher deals damage equal to the number of non-land cards revealed this way to target creature or player. If the revealed land card was a mountain, Goblin Charbelcher deals double that damage instead. Put the revealed cards on the bottom of your library in any order. Alright, so that's all our rares, I think. So, Foundry Street Denizen, very good card for a Goblin deck. I definitely run 4 of these in my Goblin deck. Whenever another red creature enters the battlefield under your control, it gets +1/+0. So, with Krenko, tapping to make tokens, this guy can get pretty big and pretty mean. Now, of course, his toughness always stays at 1, so he's very fragile, but he can get big. Battle Squadron, a star flying goblin, which is equal to the number of creatures you control. Goblin Tunneler. Target creature with 2 or less can't be blocked this turn. So this is an interesting combo. So you can go like this, right? You can swing with Foundry. You can tap this, make this guy unblockable. Swing with him. Tap Krenko to make a bunch of 1/1s that make this guy's power higher, but because this has already said that this guy can't be blocked, they can't block him. So that's kind of cool. Boggart Brute, 3/2 Menace. Just a couple of these guys to fill out the deck. Goblin Glory Chaser. This is an interesting one that came out in the... Renown was what, in the Theros block? Is that right? Yeah, I think Renown was part of the Theros block, right? Where they would, if it hits a guy, it renowns and it gets a 1/1 counter. I think that's what set that was from. As long as Goblin Glory Chaser is renowned, it has Menace. So it becomes a 2/2 with Menace, which is pretty decent. Ember Hauler, 2/2 for 2, which you can pay 1 and sacrifice it to deal 2 damage to target creature or player. Goblin War Driver, Battle Cry. Battle Cry was in like the Scars of Mirrodin block. It's the secondary Mirrodin block. And Battle Cry was whenever this creature attacks, each other attacking creature gets +1/+0 until end of turn. Gem Palm Incinerator. This was back from Scourge Onslaught days as well. So it's a 2/1 for 3, right? But it has cycling, which is you pay 2, discard it, draw. Like, as you guys know, cycling came back in Amonkhet, so you should know what cycling is. When you cycle Gem Palm Incinerator, you may have it deal X damage to target creature, where X is the number of goblins on the battlefield. So it's a nice burn spell if you don't want to play a 2/1 for 3. Goblin Ringleader. When Ringleader enters the battlefield, reveal the top 4 cards. This guy's really good, actually. He's one of the sought-after uncommons from Onslaught, I think. Yeah. I think it's Onslaught. I think it's Onslaught. The little spider icon. I think that's which one it is. But this guy's really good. So he's a 2/2 for 4, right? Which is, you think, okay, a bear for 4 is kind of not really great. But he has haste. And when he enters the battlefield, you reveal the top 4 cards of your library. Put all Goblin cards revealed this way into your hand and the rest on the bottom in any order. And in a Goblin deck, let me tell you, if you hit, like, 5 mana and then you draw another land, you're like, oh no. Things are going poorly for me. You don't really want more than 4 mana. Now, this deck has a 5-drop, which is the Battle Squadron. But if you notice, everything else is 4 or less. Another Foundry Street Denizen, so there's 2 in the deck. That's good. And then just mountains. And I looked this up last time, but so there is no sideboard in these decks. So I talked about the sideboard with the Merfolk deck. There is no sideboard. So you've got Forgotten Caves, which are just cycle lands. That's good to have, because if you draw them, you might not want them. Blighted Gorge deals 2 damage to target creature or player. For 5 mana, you sack it. So, I mean, it's fine. Tarfire, so this is going to be your spells now, because this looks like it was your creatures. Now this is going to be your spells. So Tarfire deals 2 damage to target creature or player for 1 mana. And it's a Goblin spell, just so we're clear. So if you have anything that triggers on Goblins, this spell matters to that, because they did that in the, I think it was the Kamigawa block. They made a bunch of tribal instances and sorceries that were, like, actually, like, and so, like, it matters. So, like, for instance, the Elf deck, there's a black removal spell. I can't remember the name of it, but it's an elf. It's an elf spell, even though it's a removal spell. And so it kills the thing. But if you have, like, the creature in play that makes a 1/1 elf token every time you cast an elf spell, it counts. So you get a 1/1 token from that, which is pretty cool. Brute Strength, obviously very good. +3/+1 and trample, very good for a Goblin deck. Krenko's Command, just nice way to pump out some tokens early game, so that you things like that, you know, like your Goblin Chieftain makes them bigger. There's only one Lord in this deck as well. I think did the Merfolk deck have 2 Lords? I thought it did. Ghostfire, so this is just a 3, it's an instant that does 3 damage, but it's colorless, so it can't be like prevented by things that have protection from colors. Goblin Grenade, this is a very good removal spell as well, or just a burn spell in general. You can definitely kill someone with this. I've killed someone with my Goblin deck. I have 4 copies of Goblin Grenade in it. Especially when you're pumping out all these 1/1 tokens that you don't care about. You're like, I have all these tokens. Well, I sack one and I do 5 damage to your face. I sack another and I do 5 damage to your face for 1 mana. Like, I mean, those the 1/1s. A 1/1 doing 5 damage for 1 mana is pretty good. Hordling Outburst, create 3, so more tokens. Clever Riot, creatures you control gain double strike until end of turn. So there you go. And then they give you just a bunch of Goblin tokens because you're going to need them. So this deck seems pretty decent, actually. There's a few tweaks that I would probably make. I would probably add in, not the Chieftain, but like the one that makes them cheaper by 1. I can't remember what his name is. He was from Scourge. He's basically like the Chieftain. He gives them haste, but instead of giving them +1/+1, he makes them one generic cheaper. So he makes all your Goblin spells cost one less. So then you can basically play like, you could play him on turn 3, and then you could play, your Battle Squadron on turn 4 if you wanted to. Or you could end up playing like a Rabble Master with 2 mana, and then another Goblin Chieftain or something like that for 2 more mana. So you could play 2 on turn 4 instead of only 1 of your higher cost Goblins. So there is that. But yeah, I think this deck's actually not bad. I think that there's only a small amount of tweaking that I would do. I might change some of the spells. Like, I might get rid of the Ghost Fires and put in Lightning Bolts, just because they're way more powerful. Or maybe you get rid of the Tar Fires and change them to Lightning Bolts, just because then you're trading the 1 cost for the 1 cost. So you're not like, you're making it a little bit more powerful, but not by a lot. And you're not replacing 3 cost spells with 3 1-cost spells. Because, I mean, really, a Goblin deck, you really want everything to be as cheap as possible. The other thing that I noticed that this deck doesn't have that I prefer to have in a lot of my Goblin decks is a way to draw cards. Because if you don't have some way of drawing cards, and you don't somehow kill your opponent by turn 4 or 5, and they stabilize, you're going to be pretty dead in the water no matter what you draw. So anyway, that's been a little like sort of view of what the Goblin deck is from the Goblin Merfolk thing. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Just a little me sort of rambling about the cards and talking about my memories of them and that kind of stuff. I have less experience with the Merfolk, which is why I didn't know as much about those. But the Goblins I definitely play. I play a Goblin deck. I know a lot of these cards. So there you go. Thank you guys so much for watching. I've been your host, Mr. Bevers, and as always, may your pulls ever be better.